Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Friday, May 13th, 2016. Yes, my friends, the bad luck day, people call it. But you know what? For me, it's pretty fortunate for on my aspect. But that's a little bit of being a little sarcastic. But the very interesting things are happening, of course. Usual spiritual awakening, and everyone is going on a high horse on the Sanders, Trump, Clinton hype. This really bugs me, I would say, to an extent. However, instead of complaining about it, I like to enlighten, share, educate, and help people take the initiative on doing your own homework. And study the Constitution at the same time, then you'd be surprised when you may be getting swindled. So, yeah, I'm just going to be doing some topics here, and cool little tune from friends of mine that used to be in South Florida. So I just like to browse through here and just pretty cool song, but I'll be like the last thing to do. So without further ado, let's just hit it off with by the newamerican.com, came out a couple of days ago. It's entitled CFR Globalist and U.S. States Build China-Style Regional Government. Sounds like the Club of Rome in heat. It says here, it is time for the United States of America to ditch the whole states thing and for the federal government to reorganize the nation politically into massive regions with powerful regional governments, fully subservient to national and even international authorities. The goal of the dystopian, that's right, dystopian. The economic master plan is for America to become like Communist China on the road toward a North American Union. Can we say Club of Rome 101? Absolutely, my friends. And of course, you got guys like, George W. Bush or Jorge W. Bush and Vicente sucks corporate Fox, and of course, Paul Martin, who was the Prime Minister of Canada, right? Yes, the three bend over Bobs to the New World Order. That's just an example. This might sound ridiculous, perhaps, like ravings of a madman to the average American. After all, the United States is, by its nature, a union of 50 states that have delegated a few limited and defined powers to their agent, the federal government, in pursuit of, among other objectives, securing the blessings of liberty. If globalists get their way, though, that antiquated notion would be tossed onto the ash heap of history. Right in the New York Times last month, a mid-level globalist operative with the warmongering Global Government Promoting Council of Foreign Relations argued that there is a need to be a new map for America. Yes, will you please think for me, Council of Foreign Relations? Absolutely. Argue that there's a need for a new map of America, and I have repeated myself, so forgive me. Advanced economies in Western Europe and Asia, or reorientating themselves around robust urban clusters of advanced industry, wrote Parag Khanna, a CFR globalist and a self-styled leading globalist strategist, whatever that means. Unfortunately, the American policy making remains wedded to an antiquated political structure of the 50 distinct states. So Parag Khanna is nothing more than an Uncle Tom to the one world order. That's right. Yes, master, may I have another? Instead of the 50 states, Khanna argues that America's new map should be based on regions, each with its own regional government. We don't have to create these regions. They already exist on two levels. The CFR operative explained. First, there are now 7 distinct super regions defined by common economics and demographics like the Pacific Coast and the Great Lakes. Within these, in addition to America's main metro hubs, we find new urban archipelagos. And federal policy should be used to bring all about. He said, of course, Khanna was born in India and lived in Arabia and Europe. It's hardly first to push such a radical reorganization of America. In 1975, the Daily World, a Communist Party propaganda organ, published a piece of Morris Zitterlin, headline, Planning is Socialism's Trademark. In socialist countries, metropolitan regions enjoy metropolitan regional government and comprehensive planning. The Communist Operatives argue the economic and functional efficiencies and the social benefits that comprehensive national, regional, and city planning make possible in socialist society. And I have made a mistake. No, I haven't made a mistake. Explain the Soviet Union's enormous and rapid economic social progress. The Soviet Union ostensibly imploded less than 2 decades after a drivel was published, but only after murdering tens or even hundreds of millions of people in Russia and around the world. But Kahana does not point to the USSR to illustrate the glories of regional super government planning. Instead, he points to communist China. Woo! Long live Mao's legacy. Hallelujah. Ruled by a barbaric regime that has murdered more people than any other in history and was brought to power thanks in a large part to efforts of the CFR Globalists. Despite millenniums of cultivated cultural and linguistic provinces, China is transcending its traditional internal boundaries to become an empire of 26 megacity clusters with populations of up to 100 million each. Kahana said, as if communist China's brutal totalitarian rulers and their tyrannical ways were something to be emulated. Over time, these clusters, whose borders fluctuated based on population and economic growth, will be the cores around which the central government allocates subsidies, designs supply chains, and build connections to the rest of the world. As the New American reported in 2013, regime in Beijing is plotting to herd hundreds of millions of subjects from the countryside into the megacities, tied up by Kahana at gunpoint if necessary. It sounds like what happened in Mexico, correct? Think about that, my friends. Take the farmers out, put them in the big cities. Yeah, could we say mega prisons? Western countries, Kahana claims, are following suit. He points to Italy and Britain, populations now subject against their will to being ruled by an uncountable regional regime in Brussels as examples, indeed sounding enamored with central planning. The CFR Globalist boasts that the UK Prime Minister David Cameron is driving investment toward a new corridor stretching from Leeds to Liverpool, known as the Northern Powerhouse. It sounds real attractive, real sexy, right? Why politicians should be driving investment in the first place was not explained. The same model of planned economic development based on regions should be pursued in America, Kahana argues. What would this approach look like in America? It would start by focusing not in state lines, but existing lines in infrastructure, supply chains, and telecommunications. He said, adding that the routes stay remarkably similar to the borders of his emergent super regions. For good measure, he goes on to take a swipe at local government, too, saying that too often decisions about infrastructure investments are made at the state or even county level. In other words, if only Washington, D.C. was allowed to make all the decisions about everything, America would be a better place, the wisdom of America's founders notwithstanding. I can dream about it. The central government will make me feel great. Whoa. Please, I just gotta flush that down the toilet. But it will not be enough just to abolish and make irrelevant America's state borders. National borders need to go too. Where possible, such planning should even jump over international borders. Kahana argues the Detroit-Windsor region as a good target for the effort. Both sides are deeply interdependent because of their automobile and steel industries would benefit from scaling together rather than bickering over who pays for a new bridge between them. Detroit's destiny seems almost obvious if we are brave enough to build it. A midpoint of the Chicago-Toronto corridor in an emerging North American Union. Emphasis added. And here you thought North American Union was a conspiracy theory. But who can blame you? New York Times itself, which published Kahana's pro-NAU diatribe, has long demonized those who expose the agenda, including this magazine. If you haven't heard about the NAU, they may be because its plotters have succeeded in keeping it secret, wrote the Times' Drake Bennett in 2007. Even while the CFR and the U.S. government were concocting plans for a European Union-style rule over North America, or more likely because there's no such thing. Government officials say a continental union is out of the question. Bennett must not have good sources, or he was simply lying to readers, because before he wrote this factual challenge diatribe calling the NAU the quintessential conspiracy theory for our time, the U.S. Embassy in Canada was working on precisely such a plot as revealed in leak cables. Oops, neither the Times nor Bennett has retracted the piece for apology for the embarrassing errors. Before he died, though, the architect of the plot of the CFR's Robert Pastor blamed the John Birch Society, an affiliate of his magazine, for helping to stop his scheme to merge the United States with Canada and Mexico, and it is hardly dead, for however. To the radical global vision off the ground requires thinking beyond states. Kahana continued, the out-of-control federal government, which already tramples all over the states and the U.S. Constitution that authorizes existence in the first place, needs to go much further, even at risk of upsetting established federal state political balances, he said. Among other schemes, the New York Times piece called for a national infrastructure bank that, has part of its charter, would have an obligation to ignore the state lines and decide which projects to support. In misleading anecdote, Kahana points to the federally funded lobbying group calling itself National Governors Association to claim that, ironically, even states are warming up to the radical idea of abolishing themselves. And in case that was not enough, he also threatens America with the loss of its global power if it refused to accept his dangerous prescription to become more like a communist dictatorship and to give the republic bequeathed to the American people by the nation's founders that has long protected the God-given rights of America more than America's military grand strategy. Such an economic master plan would determine if America remains the world's leading superpower, he claimed. Sounds like a blackmail. Yes, I'm Kahana, and I'm going to tell the United States how to think and when to wipe their butts. And all that is, of course, nonsense. But it is not surprising to see the arguments brought to you by the lackey of the same globalist establishment that got America involved in countless no-win wars, shredded its manufacturing base, built up the United Nations, aided international communism for decades, helped usurp more powers for the federal government, and has done everything in its power to crush American sovereignty, and the U.S. Constitution. That globalist cabal is the Council of Foreign Relations, where Kahana served as a term member, along with his who's who of globalist hacks that have dominated the administrations of presidents from both parties for generations. Kahana is also a senior fellow of the European Council on Foreign Relations and serves on the Globalist World Economic Forum's Global Agenda Council. His work is funded among other sources, the UN Foundation and the Globalist 4 Foundation. Wow, this guy, we should all kiss the floor he walks on. Yeah. And give him a bar of soap while he's at it, correct? Kahana is also a global contributor to CNN, which, like the Times, first ridiculed those opposed to the NAU before openly promoting their agenda. In his capacity as CNN contributor, though, Kahana has been making similarly ridiculous globalist arguments. In December, for example, he called for a global passport run by the Interpol, the self-styled planetary law enforcement agency that was once controlled by the National Socialists, the Nazis. The bottom line is that anyone can be ISIS, Kahana claimed absurdly. Terrorism more than ever a borderless problem requiring cross-border solutions. The time has come for a global passport, a parallel digital certification of a person's identity, background, criminal record, travel history, and other details, probably including your sperm count as well, right? Yeah, you don't never know, my friends. The digital record would be regularly updated based on databases from airlines, customs agencies, banks, and other sources, and could be imagined by an independent international authority such as Interpol. As Americans increasingly rise up against the pursuit of intellectual global establishment that has all but murdered the United States as a free and independent nation, to rush to subvert state and national sovereignty in America will accelerate. Process ideas such as abolishing the states or creating a North American Union, once dismissed by those same lying globalists as conspiracy theories, even as they worked on the plots, will be increasingly be advanced in the establishment leading propaganda organs such as CNN and the New York Times. Now it is time for the Americans to wake up, expose the globalists, and restore the U.S. Constitution. He is absolutely right. And I got to say one thing about this guy, kahana, it sounds like kaka to me, kakana, sounds like a real, probably means manure, allegedly speaking. Parag Kahana, I think one thing he admit, he's nothing more than just another bend over Bob and proud to the New World Order. And I know he will spread his behind butt cheeks to everyone that has more money than God. Correct? The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. He probably on his hands and knees and give it to him, baby. But the whole thing is this, my friends. This is nothing more than a deception. Okay? He's trying to sell you a piece of candy, like, oh, it's real healthy for you, it'll make you feel strong, will actually rot your teeth and get you poisoned. All right, that's what kind of this ingrate does. And there's something too about the Council of Foreign Relations. You got people in there such as Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, Newt Gingrich. When some people say, oh yeah, he'd be a perfect running for Donald Trump, he's another Council of Foreign Relations stooge. And of course, insane McCain, who has got no grassroots nor any money. All right, these folks are just examples of the pathetic entity they're in. All right, unacceptable, null and void. You got to tell these bastards to stick it, as far as I'm concerned, because we don't need taking shortcuts or being subservient to these vultures. They don't give a damn about you. You want people, like-minded individuals, gone. Doesn't matter what you look like or what your faith is, okay? It doesn't matter. I think everyone in the world should tell the Council of Foreign Relations, the Club of Rome, to stick it. No ends, ifs, or buts. They think they are going to own you. And we all know, too, what's going on in China. There's been many uprises, okay? Even the Chinese government try to censor that, but it's being leaked out little by little. I know China Uncensored, that's the name of the website, has been doing that. I got to keep tabs and see what's going on in that area. But you know what? Everyone in the world's got to tell these people, use the CFR offices wherever you're at as an outhouse. And ask these dingleberries, including Chelsea Clinton, how does it feel to be owned and branded by the Council of Foreign Relations? Well, she's a member as well. Of course, Dick Cheney also. So that's why, folks, even though you people are bound down to Trump, he's just an example, like Bernie Sanders. Trump, and you got people like Dick Cheney and like endorsing him. Watch out. And I know too, I did a past article on that. Donald Trump's potential cabinet, one or two people in a member of that pathetic club as well. So I say, hell with them. We're the United States of America, not the centralized states, not the chartered states. Yes, it has its issues and problems, and I think every American citizen, or even the citizens of the world, got to announce their countries as a corporation. So, you know what? You can take your China-style regional government and shove it up your rectum, because you need us more we need you. And I know we always repeat that traditionally. So, next, actually came from Truth Out. Came out today. It's by Sandra Fulton. And this is like a little area. And it's entitled, Pay for Privacy Schemes Put the Most Vulnerable Americans at Risk. The SEC has opened proceedings on the rules and policies surrounding privacy rights for broadband service. One industry practice called on the question that proceeding could have a devastating impact on most vulnerable populations. Internet service providers charge broadband customers a ton of internet access. ISPs are increasingly finding new revenue streams too by taking part in the multi-billion-dollar market that evolved out of selling users' personal information to online marketers. As the debate around privacy has heated up, ISPs have tried to placate the public's growing interest in privacy protections while maintaining revenues they can get when they auction off their customers' valuable personal information. The one proposed solution that AT&T has largely pioneered have customers pay to preserve their privacy. The potential harms and discriminatory implications of this practice are obvious. It could mean that only people with necessary financial means could protect their privacy and prevent their ISPs from sharing their personal information with predatory online marketers. The FCC rulemaking proceedings seek comments to whether to allow such financial inducements for the surrender of private information. If the agency decides not to ban such practice outright, it wants to know how it should regulate them. As our lives have moved online, ISPs have gained access to our most sensitive personal information. Advanced technologies allow companies to track us invisibly, collecting and selling data on nearly every detail of what we do online. Yeah, so you know what, folks? I would say this: put on put garbage on there so you can really manipulate it, manipulate your files. Oh yeah, this guy's a pervert, and actually you're not. So use a little sarcasm. But ISPs don't just stop at knowing what we're doing. The location tracking that needed to provide mobile service to our phones let the ISP know where and when and where we do it too, as they can figure out the people and organizations we associate with by looking at who we talk to and which websites we visit. As ISP track their customers, they create comprehensive dossiers containing sensitive information on each person's finances, health, age, race, religion, and ethnicity. Their reach is so persuasive that information like a visit to a website discussing mental health, a search on how to collect unemployment benefits, or a visit to a church or Planned Parenthood office could be swept up into their databases. How do you feel about your ISP selling such a personal glimpse into your life to online advertisers under a pay for privacy scheme? You wouldn't need to worry about it so long as you can afford to shell out the hush money. But those who aren't so fortunate will have to relinquish any control over their personal data is spread across the web. The FCC raised concerns about this dynamic when it launched its rulemaking proceedings, noting that such pay for privacy practices might disadvantage low-income people and members of other vulnerable communities, but it didn't make any specific recommendations or issues any proposals on how to regulate this space. Long before the FCC launched this inquiry at the end of March 2016, and even before the agency has clarified its authority to protect broadband users in February 2015 Open Internet Order. AT&T's Giga Power broadband service has become one of the first pay-for-privacy plans on the market. The AT&T deals allow customers to opt out of such information sharing if they pay an extra $25 a month or more. Hallelujah, 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 yay. All hail to extortion. Bum, 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 bum. For a struggling family, that could mean choosing between paying for privacy and paying for groceries or public transportation needed to get to work. And while AT&T might be the first to launch this kind of service, an article in Fortune notes that other companies are eager to roll out similar plans. Under pay for privacy models, consumers who are unable to pay the higher broadband costs will likely to see their ISP share their data with shadowy online data brokers who uses this information to tailor marketing messages. While unregulated and unaccountable data brokers are a threat to everyone's privacy, they're notorious for targeting low-income communities, people of color, and other vulnerable demographics. One particular damning report from the Senate Commerce Committee offered this glimpse into how these brokers categorize and label these target audiences. And there's a good thing on here. It has a big list, samples of targeting products identifying financial, vulnerable populations, extra needy and all that. So living on loans, financial challenges, rocky road. So all that there. So from company resources. That's the source. The Senate committees reported notes, for example, that the hard times category include people who are older, downscale, and ethnically diverse singles, typically concentrated in the inner city apartments. It continued, this is the bottom of the social-economic ladder, the poorest lifestyle segment in the nation. Hard times are older, single, and poor neighborhoods. Nearly three-quarters of the adults are between ages of 50 and 75. There's an underclass of working poor and destitute seniors without family support. These classifications can influence not just what kinds of ads people see, but the interest rates they offer or the insurance premiums they pay. These targeted communities are precisely the ones who can't pay extra to shield their personal information from these dangerous companies. There may be some argument if the big companies are going to profit from our data anyway. It's actually good if their customers get a share of that. The FCC's rulemaking proposal notes the brick and mortar stores and websites alike offer all sorts of free services, discounts, and perks in exchange for any data they mine for their customers and users. Yeah, that's true. But the nature of the broadband market, where users have no real options when it comes to choosing their providers and no way to opt out for staying online, makes the trade-offs here especially worthy of attention. If users could get fair value of for their data, and if they got a real discount on broadband and not just privacy penalty, and if they were providing truly informed consent with full knowledge of their pernicious users data broker have for their information, then maybe we could have a conversation about the fairness of such schemes. But those are some very big ifs. We need better transparency rules for marketers and easy-use disclosures and opt-in mechanisms before we get there. We also need a strong baseline privacy protections guarantee for all, including the rules that prohibits ISPs from using discriminatory schemes that jeopardize the rights of the most vulnerable customers. We applaud the FCC for taking this crucial first step to protect privacy from the broadband's ISP overreach and abuse as gatekeepers to the internet. ISP hold a wealth of information about their customers, and the Communications Act commands the FCC to establish strong safeguards for their privacy info. But the FCC must also remember that our rights are not for sale and that privacy is not a luxury for the wealthy. Very interesting because technically I'm not a big fan of the FCC in a lot of areas. So too much centralization and so forth, like the referee. And it was really disturbing too. Like I don't blame these folks when they say they have to. If you want privacy, you have to pay $29 a month. You know what I gotta say? If people stop using AT&T and just get their own little Wi-Fi service, you'll get them where it hurts. The damn wallets. Then they gotta get rid of that program completely. It's called supply and demand, my friends. Don't let these little schemes fool you. And is it 100% guaranteed? I wouldn't be surprised it's not. So that's one thing I have to look at this. And it is a good article, by the way. It's a decent article. I will say that for sure. But maybe we have different directions. But it is concerned about privacy, especially when you're trying to sell your stuff to some bozo marketer. And you know what? I just say this. If these telemarketers give you crap, just tell them to blow it out of their butts or their asses, whatever you want to say. And hey, just one thing you gotta do. You gotta watch out for the extortion. Of course, AT&T loves to extort money as well, just like Washington, D.C. Ooh, yeah. Examples of corporatism and fascism 101. Not capitalism at all. All right? So get them where it hurts, my friends. AT&T need us more we need them when you come to think about it. Too much dependency in these big companies. And because the rate things are going with technology, soon, maybe one day, we're going to have our own internet provider, and AT&T will be crying in the wind. All right, next one here came from Accuracy in Media by Spencer Irving. It says here, Benghazi committee seeking to contact whistleblower over Air Force commands. As a real short, interesting development for the House Select Committee on Benghazi. Republican members of the House Select Committees on Benghazi are making efforts to contact an Air Force whistleblower who has quoted anonymously in a report Thursday that claimed pilots who could have reached Benghazi on the night of the attack were never given permission to launch. I definitely believe that our aircraft could have taken off and gotten there in a timely manner, maybe 3 hours at the most, in order to at least stop the second mortar attack and basically save lives that day, unidentified source told Fox News. Interesting. Well, if you go to judicialwatch.org and holding on Benghazi, is one pretty ugly setup, I would say. And based on the information that Judicial Watch has, they knew it was going to happen. So, and I say this. There's been talk about indicting Hillary Clinton. And there's even claims that French intel says it's not going to happen, allegedly. It's just really disturbing. And this is what happens when you use imperialism, because technically Benghazi is considered blowback. But I'm just hope they get this whistleblower, put out the truth, burn these bastards to the feet to the fire. Enough said on that one, man. Very disheartening. You know. All right, next one here. Waiting for the personal liberty. It'd be a couple from personal liberty. This one came out today, by the way. It says here, FBI won't say whether it listens in through home automation systems. Sam Raleigh. Alexa, tell me who's listening. Amazon recently came out with a nifty new home automation device called the Echo. The gadget is an innocuous, loud-looking speaker meant to sit in your home and listen for you to bark commands. Things like give me a recipe for borscht or playback in the USSR. As integrated personal assistant, Alexa is always listening so that Alexa can cater to your every need. And in a perfect world, it would be the stuff for Jetsonian dreams. You meet George Jetson? Exactly. But in a modern big government surveillance state, it is simply a reminder of all the ways they're willingly handing ourselves over a dystopian future. Back in March, Gizmodo editor Matt Novak filed a Freedom of Information request with the FBI to see if the agency had yet wiretapped an Echo to listen in on the private conversations of its owner. He explained the reason behind his inquiry thusly. In 2016, creepy perverts are hacking computer cameras and baby monitors all the time just to get their sick little rocks off. And we know that the NSA can still wiretap your phone or even when it's not turned on. So why wouldn't law enforcement agencies or intelligence agencies hack your Echo, presumably with a court order to catch the baddies? The agency answer wasn't very detailed, but if you value your privacy, it says plenty. Here's how the FBI responded. Please be advised that upon reviewing the substantive nature of your request, we can neither confirm nor deny the existence of records responsive to your request pursuant to FOIA exemption. The mere acknowledgement of whether the FBI has any records in or and of itself will disclose techniques, procedures, and or guidelines that could reasonably be expected to risk circumvention of the law. Thus, the FBI neither confirms nor denies the existence of any records. Translation, they have or they are working on figuring out on how to wiretap Echo and similar devices, but they don't want to get all those pesky privacy advocates asking questions about things like court orders and legality. While the FBI answer to the Echo question is frustrating, it should be in no way surprising to anyone who has been paying attention to the government's privacy violating antics in this technological age. Way back in 2014, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden revealed that the government has the ability to listen in through devices that most of us carry constantly without a second thought. The government spy agency can even remotely access a smartphone's camera, microphone when the device is switched off. So it's really interesting here. So you gotta always have to pay attention with these little gadgets. It may be great, but a lot of like we use as a double-edged sword. So hopefully, I wouldn't be surprised if they are trying to figure out how to wiretap Echo. And you know what? You get those little devices, blast the crap out of them, do some crazy demonic sounds or constant fluctuance when you're not using it, just to drive those bastards nuts. You know, they can filter and all they want, but you got to just have fun with them. You know, utilize it. Use the enemy's tools, I would say. All right, well, I'm just having too much fun on this area here. But next one here, my friends, will be coming up here. It is a few days ago, I'd say. I think it's a couple days ago. This is merchandise number 5 by Bob Livingston. It says here, a youngster growing up in the South, I often heard the old timers asking one another if they wanted a dope. If they were asking if someone wanted a Coke, the soft drink, Coca-Cola. It was no secret that Coca-Cola has once contained cocaine and that cocaine was a drug or dope. Coke began taking cocaine out of its formula in 1903 and became completely cocaine-free in 1928. But coca leaf extract is still used as an active ingredient. The ec- econine alkaloid, which gives cocaine its effect on the brain, is extracted from the coca leaf before processing. The Stepan Corporation, a New Jersey-based chemical processing company, performs the extraction on the coca leaf. Stepan has an arrangement with the Drug Enforcement Agency and is only company allowed to legally import the coca leaf into the United States. Stepan Imports. Oh, sorry about that. Imports 175,000 kilograms of coca leaves into the United States each year. There is a street value equivalent to roughly $21 billion of cocaine, according to the United Nations. After the cocaine is processed by Stepan, it is hauled away from the facility in armored trucks, then sold to Malin Croddock, a pharmaceutical company whose United States headquarters are based in St. Louis, Missouri. Malin Croddock uses it to manufacture cocaine hydrochloride USP, which is used as a local anesthetic for eye, ear, or throat surgeries. Coca leaf extract is referred to as merchandise number 5. Coca-Cola has several addictive ingredients, including caffeine and sugar in the form of high fructose corn syrup. HFCS does 4 things. It blocks the assimilation of calcium. Have you heard of the asbestos epidemic in America? Most Americans chase their calcium supplement with a drink containing HFCS. Also, everyone over 50 gets suffered from a dangerous loss of calcium. HFCS causes cancer in test animals, and it predisposes human to cancer. As synthetic sugar, it bypasses the pancreas. This eventually causes the pancreas to shut down, leading to diabetes. Harvey Wiley, the first head of the Bureau of Chemistry, the forerunner of the Food and Drug Administration, warned of the deceptive marketing of glucose, which precedes HFCS and other adulterated corn products in their introduction into food. He predicted a diabetes epidemic. It causes obesity and highly addictive. It's from the antimedia.org. Oh yeah, I've been reading about this for years, about all this high fructose corn syrup and other little things. So remember, if you decriminalize the drugs like cocaine, the market will go down. Hey, something to think about, right? That's why, my friends, we all have bad habits, including myself. However, I am taking the initiative of minimizing everything and actually shredding it out of my life. We gotta start investing in our health. There's people I know are like younger than me are in these bad health conditions because they've been consuming a lot of this garbage. So just one thing gotta always for sure. I don't even drink Coca-Cola anymore. Just once in the blue moon, but it's a want to me, not a need. That would be your best bet. If you do that, you feel a big difference. So please, I urge people to avoid these certain corporate soft drinks, big mega corporate sodas. So I'm gonna say enough of that. And this one here came from antiwar.com. Woo, yeah, I think that's very interesting there. Antiwar.com. And this one here is entitled Toldja So. Does Being Right Count Anymore? This is by Justin Riamonto. It's a good viewpoint here. It says here, how do we account for the fact that the pundits and the media outlets would have been wrong about everything are still considered reliably mainstream and still get to determine the parameters of allowable debate? Let's take the most egregious case imaginable, Bill Kristol. Here is someone who has been wrong about absolutely everything for as long as anyone can remember. On the foreign policy front, he wasn't just on the wrong side of the barricades, he was wrong about the outcomes of the disastrous interventions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya. Iraq would be a 2-month war, and Afghanistan would be welcomed as liberators just like Iraq. If we prevail Libya, he averred the victory will be America's. We did indeed succeed in overthrowing Gaddafi, and shortly afterwards the United States ambassador was dead and terrorists have cavorting the swimming pool of our former embassy. When it comes to the domestic front, his record is even more dismal. He predicted Mitt Romney would be a strong GOP candidate for the United States. He said Barack Obama wouldn't beat Hillary in a single primary. And he continually presaged the downfall of Donald Trump in the Republican primaries. Hey, this guy's great. So if Donald Trump will fail the Republican primaries, I mean, he's going to do well, according to Bill Kristol. Yeah, with this irony way, So it's become something like a standing joke that the crystal ball is a nearly inflatable indicator of what isn't going to happen, and yet he's all over the media and personally profiting from his utter wrongness. In 2009, he received a Bradley Prize for Outstanding Conservative Thinkers, taking home $250,000. I bet you that was a blackmail scheme, huh? Yes, the neocons got it wrong, but they weren't alone. Before Dan Dresner was a Washington Post columnist who was perfect weather vane by which to chart the prevailing winds in Washington. The Fletcher School professor of international relations was a prolific blogger who stated his reasons for supporting the invasion of Iraq. Here, a successful invasion not only eliminates the Iraq threat, but over the long run, it reduces the Arab resentment that feeds Al Qaeda. Come on, God bless the New World Order. Imperialism is the only way. Since we live in bizarre world, where's up is down, black is white, an analyst who was completely wrong about almost the most important foreign policy issue of the new millennium is naturally going to be rewarded with a column in a major newspaper. So if you're dumb, pathetic, and corrupt, you will get respect. If you're productive, you'll get the middle finger. And it wasn't just the neocons and their centrist enablers who were the wrong way drivers of the Iraq will be a cakewalk narrative. Who can forget liberal pundit Chris Matthews proclaiming we're all neocons now? Howard Feynman told us we had controversial wars that divided the country. This war united the country and brought the military back. And then there was the New York Times reporter David Carr declaring now liberal commentators must address the victory at hand and confront an ascendant conservative juggernaut that asserts the United States might can set the world right. The list goes on, but we don't have the space for it. Suffice to say, all these pundits, experts, and reporters are still out there on the loose, ready to dispense advice, and they're in the inviolable position to do so with full access to the mainstream media. And when the next war comes around the bend, as it will, they'll be singing the same song as written in their overseas in the Pentagon and whether the administration is in power. On the other hand, what about those idea outlets out of the mainstream who were right all along? I said before, in the years, months, days before the war, we at antiwar.com warned Americans and the world of what the outcome would be. The cost in troops, treasure, civilian deaths, and cost of America's credibility in the world would all end up adding up to a devastating loss. And we'll say it again, we were right. So where's my $250,000 prize? My favorite Toldja so anecdote is about this infamous piece in National Review where neocon enforcer David Frum, a former Bush speechwriter, expelled anti-war conservatives and libertarians from respectable society and took me to task for daring to question the victory narrative about the Afghanistan war. Then in the incident, the week after the fall of Kabul, Raimondo acknowledged that though the Afghan war seemed to have succeeded, disaster looked around the corner. The real quagmire await us when the history books are written. Operation Enduring Freedom will be hailed as a great success, provided it doesn't endure much more than a few weeks longer. Yeah, really. Yes, it seems to have succeeded without actually succeeding, because there was no measure of what success meant. Did we want to turn Afghanistan into Central Asian's version of Kansas? We're going to stay until Afghanistan women could have it all, like our own feminists. No one knew. And what's more, no more in the mainstream media care to ask, because they're all so busy hailing our glorious victory that they didn't bother to wonder what it was all for. When the liberal interventionists and their neocon allies were demanding regime change in Libya, we here at antiwar.com said it would be a disaster. What would end in chaos? And we were right about that too. While Bill Kristol was arguing Republicans to ease off of criticism on Obama's war, and the liberals were all salivating the opportunity to prove their macho bona fides, readers of antiwar.com knew that one, the alleged imminent massacre by Gaddafi was completely phony, and two, regime change would dismantle the country and hand it over to the Islamists. That's what antiwar.com is all about. Reporting news before it happens. And we have a pretty good record, but there's just one problem. We have to keep turning to you, our readers, to keep this site going. They aren't funded by any big foundations. We don't have any of those Hollywood liberals sending us wads of cash. They're too busy lining up for warmonger Hillary Clinton to be bothered with the likes of us. Establishment liberals don't even like our deviations from their view of orthodoxy. And of course, the establishment conservatives hate our guts because they don't like being proved wrong. So are we screwed? Well, no, not necessarily. Over the years, we have garnered quite a bit of support from a wide range of people from the left to the right and all places in between. Our readers have made this site possible with their tax-deductible donations since 1995, yep, for over 20 years, but it never gets easier. And that's why we're turning to you once again for the financial support. We need to keep going. Our fundraising drive has been going for nearly a week. Quite frankly, the results have been disappointing. The economy is not that great and getting worse. Yes, I get that. But you can spare a little for what it is. After all, not only a good cause, but arguably one of the most important cause of all, the quest for a rational U.S. foreign policy, more than 15 years of undisrupted warfare. Isn't time to reevaluate where all this is taking us? The American people are with us, and now it's time to make some real change. The War Party has more than enough resources to keep their propaganda blitz going 24/7. They don't have to fundraise. All they have to do is make a few phone calls to the big government contractors and foreign lobbyists who will write them a check. We, on the other hand, have only you, our readers and supporters. We need your support more than ever because the War Party never rests. And that means we can either donate right now before you forget. There is a donation box there. It says here, because tomorrow wish you had. We've all been right all along, but that's not gonna pay the bills and keep the antiwar.com flag flying in cyberspace. We've earned your support of a couple of times before. Now your part and send in that contribution because antiwar.com is needed more than ever. So check him out on Twitter and all that good stuff. And be honest, he's right. We gotta support these people. And I always enjoy reading their articles too. And it's great because we follow each other as well on Twitter, which is awesome. But please, folks, donate these individuals, like-minded organizations, just like antiwar.com, because if they're gone, it'll be a lot more difficult to find out the real truth. And these guys here have the gall to make it happen. Support them, donate, send it to your families, friends, loved ones, comrades, and enemies if desired. It doesn't matter what party they're in, what they look like, what the principles are. If they want true peace and hates imperialism, support antiwar.com. That's all I got to say about that. Finally, came out today, actually yesterday, blog by the 10thAmendment.com by Mike Mary. Says here, Mary, New Hampshire asset forfeiture bills unmask power of police lobby. It says here, last week a New Hampshire Senate committee passed a bill that represents an important first step to reform and restrict asset forfeiture, but bowed to law enforcement pressure and amended out sections that would have removed policing for profit incentives from state law. The move by the committee reveals the power and aggressiveness of the law enforcement lobby. Representative Dan McGuire, Republican from Merrimack, along with 10 bipartisan legislators who introduced the bill, HB 636. You can get that link on there in January. The legislation would reform New Hampshire law by requiring a criminal conviction before prosecutors could proceed with asset forfeiture. Under the proposed law, prosecutors will also have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that the property was derived from or used in the commission of a crime. Under the current law, the state can seize assets even for persons found not guilty of a crime or even arrested. As passed by the House, HB 636 would also direct that all asset forfeiture proceeds in the state general fund instead of law enforcement budgets. This would minimize the policing for profit incentives inherent in the current system. But as Valley News reports, the committee voted to remove this provision after law enforcement lobbyists applied heavy pressure. During a committee hearing, Lebanon Police Chief Richard Mello warned that diverting the money would handcuff his apartment. I don't agree with the premise that we're all doing policing for profit, he said. Later he added, by taking the money, it's not going to stop the thing that law enforcement do. It's just going to handcuff us and handicap us far as we're going to pay for it. But the amount of money law enforcement agencies actually bring in through the state forfeiture represents a relatively small amount compared to the dollars that poured in through the federal equitable sharing program. More encroachment to the states by the feds. The amount forfeited statewide under state law is about $50,000 to $60,000 annually, far less than the proceeds from seizures under federal law, which averages $1 million each year. The state allocates 45% of the proceeds to agencies participating in the given seizure, another 45% to the State Department, and just 10% to the State of Human Health and Human Resources. Police receive a greater portion of the proceeds from the federal seizures, which also tends to be larger in value than those made through the state law, according to area chiefs. The 10th Amendment Center founder and executive director Michael Bolden called a law enforcement opposition to the bill gross. The bill doesn't touch federal forfeiture, so law enforcement is vehemently opposed to something that will restrict but not end less than 5% of their take via forfeiture. It's how bad these people are. Senator David Pierce, Democrat from Lebanon, one of the bill's co-sponsors, actually sided with police. The only senator on the committee to oppose removing the provisions was Senator General Little. He's from Rare. That's a Republican from Rare. If the Senate ultimately passed HB 636 as an amendment, it would have to go back to the House for concurrence, so there remains possible to restore the strip provisions. And I say yes, keep those provisions, revise them in New Hampshire. Live free or die, not live free or whine, right? The amount of money collected through federal forfeiture highlights a loophole remaining in HB 636 would allow state and local law enforcement to pass off forfeiture cases to the feds, thereby bypassing more stringent state law, but despise the loopholes sources to close to the 10th Amendment Center in New Hampshire. Call this a foundational first step in the federal loophole is on their radar to address in 2017 HB 636 ultimately passes into law. Federal loophole. HB 636 also would represent a strong reform of New Hampshire asset forfeiture laws and go a long way toward protecting the rights of property owners, but the loophole ultimately needs to be closed. This would require amendment language or legislation in the future to stop state and local law enforcement from turning cases over to the federal government, thereby circumventing any restrictions placed on an asset forfeiture at a state level. I agree with that. This very scenario plays out frequently in states with strong asset forfeiture laws like California. Police simply avoid such restrictions by turning cases involving seized assets over to the feds. In return, state and local agencies get up to 8% of the proceeds from forfeit assets back through the federal equitable sharing program. This whole program needs to be abolished as far as I'm concerned. It's totally disgusting. Late last December, the U.S. Department of Justice suspended the equitable sharing program due to budget cuts. But as the Washington Post reported, the suspension won't likely be permanent. In this letter, the DOJ hints that it may be able to restart payments after by deferring equitable sharing payments now. We preserve our ability to resume equitable sharing payments at a later date should the budget picture improve. The DOJ hopes to reinstate sharing distributions as soon as practical and financially feasible, the letter concludes. Even with the program suspension in place for now, New Hampshire needs to address the loophole to ensure police cannot circumvent the law in the future. Legislators can do so by adding the following language. A law enforcement agency or prosecuting authority may not either may not enter into an agreement to transfer or refer seized property to a federal agency directly, indirectly by adoption through an intergovernmental joint task force or by other means for the purposes of forfeiture litigation, and instead must refer the seized properties to appropriate local or state prosecuting authorities for forfeiture litigation under this chapter, unless the seized property includes current U.S. currency excess of $50,000. At the 10th Amendment Center, Brewers report the federal government has inserted itself into the California's asset forfeiture debate. The feds clearly want the policy to continue. Why? We can only guess, but perhaps the feds recognize paying state and local agencies directly in cash for handling their enforcement would reveal their weakness. After all, the federal government would find it nearly impossible to prosecute its unconstitutional war on drugs without state or local assistance. Asset forfeiture equitable sharing provides a pipeline the feds use to incentivize state and local police to serve as the de facto arms of the federal government by funneling billions of dollars into their budgets. Our tax dollars at work, right? States push back. States are rapidly taking notice and passing reforms to halt this abusive practice. New Mexico enacted a law this year prohibiting the confiscation of property for all suspects of crimes until after they are convicted. Montana passed a significant but less comprehensive reform plan tracking asset forfeitures as well this year as well. And so did Florida. So just let you guys know. HB 636 would be on the move on to the full Senate for further consideration. And I have to say that for sure because the feds don't like this. And you know what? And I don't give a damn what they say. People are getting tired, okay, of being screwed, being shafted, and try to say that you have to be guilty to prove it innocent. Bunch of confounded pieces of garbage, okay? But that language needs to go back in there for a fact. And even if you look at their state constitution, I got it right in front of me right now. And on natural rights, hold on here. I'm going to see what I can do here. Boom. On natural rights and all that good stuff. And like it says here, on natural rights, Article 2 of their state constitution says all men have certain natural, essential, inherited rights, among which are enjoying the domain of life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and the word of seeking and obtaining happiness. Equality of rights under law shall not be denied or abridged by the state on this account of race, color, creed, or national origin. And so that's Article 2 of the state constitution. And it says here about society and purposes, when men, that's Article 3, when men enter into a state society, they surrender up their natural rights to that society in order to ensure the protection of others. Without such an equivalent, the surrender is void. There you go. Right of conscience, unalienable. And hold on, I'm just trying to look here. State sovereignty, of course. And I know it's right down here somewhere. I'm looking. No. It says here, Article 12A, power to take property limit. No part of the person's property shall be taken by eminent domain and transferred or directly or indirectly to another person and taken. Okay, that's no big deal. That's no stuff here. Rights of the accused. Yep. Hold on, I'm just almost here. All right. Yeah, I'm looking here. 16. No subject should be liable for betrayal or acquittal. Okay. I should have did this originally, but Article 17, venue of criminal prosecution. In criminal prosecution, the trial of the facts in the vicinity where they happen is so essential in the security of life and liberty in the state of the citizen that no crime or offense be tried twice, be committed. Okay, sorry about that. But it's a lot. It's all right. Seizures, yeah, there you go. Seizures, exactly. So it has to be prescribed by law. Article 19 talks about that. That's for warrants. And of course, compensation, free speech, laws. Oh, yeah. It's so many things in here. It's insane. Mandate programs. A lot of it's like due process as well. So that's like the main objection. But it does violate, the natural born rights. That is a fact. So, and pensions and retirement funds, separation of powers. Yeah, I should have get that on there. But definitely, folks, check it out. I will put Article 1 of that the state's bill. It's called the Bill of Rights of New Hampshire. I'm going to add that to the memo, okay? And that is really it, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, love letters, hate letters, or you want to send me something that's pretty interesting, something I could haven't talked about, would be great. However, please send it with decorum. And whatever you do, don't send your comments about you can sell me stuff, okay? It could be null and void. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, or Tumblr. Or you can email me at lookyourluck3, that's the number 3 at gmail.com. Before I sign off, I'm going to play a song for friends of mine I haven't seen in years. I hope Terry LaPointe is doing well. And the rest of the guys from Nation of Fear, Brian and Grinch, Ashley, you know, all those good chaps, man, because they were a good local band, like Industrial Rock. And they did thank me on one of their album, like the second album, I believe. And they helped me. They thanked me on hooking up with Jim from the Genitorches. They did a tour together in like 1998. 97, they did a show in 97. He did a tour with them in 98, which was great. I'm very glad that happened. And just wish all those guys well, man. Hopefully they're alive. Think about you folks a lot. And called the Nation of Song by Nation of Fear is called America Burns. And you can know what's really been going on, my friends. Very interesting stuff here. So always check it out. Observe responsibly. All right, that's all for now. Thanks for listening once again. Plus, always remember that the Maniac Resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you. Everyone, have a safe weekend. Bye.